Hey, hello. This is Mark Silver with Heart of Business, and I'm delighted to have George Cow with me today. We are going to be delving into a topic that I've not delved into with George before, but before we get into that, I just want to say that I love George. I really love you. I love your heart. I love the integrity and the depth of knowledge that you bring to business development. And I love the simplicity and just the groundedness that you bring. And, we have a number of our clients that have worked with you or have taken your courses and 100% just raving positive things to say. And of course I've worked with you too, and I've same thing, it's really good stuff. And the thing I like in particular, one of the things that I like in particular, George, is that you had come into working on business development from a place of that was maybe a little bit more typical in our industry. It's like, kind of the big promises, big, results, but, not, it was a hard place. And you had a realization in your heart that this, like that didn't feel right. And you've taken your knowledge and the way that you've shifted your business over the last several years, for a while now. Um, it's just felt so nourishing. Like every time I see one of your videos or see your content, it brings a smile to my face and a sense of grounded, feet on the ground feeling. So, anyway, if you're listening to this
Thank you.
video, you can tell that I
I,
like George.
well, I'm so grateful. I'm really honored because uh, I have looked up to you and your programs and your content for a long time.
Mhm.
Heard so many great things about as people have gone through your stuff, and so to be able to actually connect with you is an honor, and it's a mutual admiration society. I see you as a mentor, and so you're kind of been one of the leaders of what that that actually is bringing heart into into business, which is why you have Heart of Business. So thank you so much. I really appreciate this time with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. But let's just dive right in because I know that
Great.
you have this topic about free presentations, free webinars, and
Yeah.
how they can help generate business. And a
Yes.
lot of people have done. I've seen a lot of people do free stuff that doesn't
Yes.
lead anywhere. And
Yes.
so,
Yes.
anyway, I'm really curious to hear your approach to this because before this conversation, like you kind of mentioned, oh yeah, I'm not starting, you've been doing this for a while, but
Yeah.
I'm bringing this to my clients, and I'm like, oh, I'm so curious to hear what you have to say about this.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. And it's really kind of like a tweak that makes it really interesting, which is that what you all, those watching, have probably experienced before is the free webinar. I'll put it in quotes because it is promised as something that's going to be training. It's going to be helpful for us. I've done it myself many times, which is why I know it very well. And I used to teach this model, okay, which is the free webinar that's actually a sales pitch, carefully designed, but the promise is a free webinar. Okay. And then people sign up and they get so excited about it. And then, the person spends the first 20 minutes talking about how great they are and look at my wonderful testimonials. And then the rest of the time is setting people up for the product. And I've done this so many times, I can't count. I've taught this to so many people. And you know what? It works in the short term to get sales because obviously when you set things up in such a way that people are persuaded or educated to a certain way, yeah, of course they're going to buy. But I stopped doing that because it just it didn't have a long-term track record. Because the
Mm.
thing is, people, once they know, okay, all right, they're not going to do it that many times, and they're not going to spread the word, like instead of what we're going to talk about. Okay, so that's the free webinar method. I used to call it the SPOI. uh, oh God, I can't even remember what it stands for, but something like sales incentive, something like that. But that's the sort of the tricky free webinar, we might say. And then, which is usually what's done in the market. And then I shifted to, and then the other very common method, which is a paid webinar, very straightforward. This is training that you're paying for, and you're going to come and you're going to get that training, and that's it. We all know this. It's like taking a class in person, except you're doing it online. Paid webinar makes a lot of sense. And so now I'm kind of doing this tweak where, uh, I actually did this years ago without realizing it was a method I was going to be talking about. It's like, why don't I try it this way? And now I'm actually, for the past few months, my clients have been trying it and actually really enjoying it. That's why I wanted to share it with your folks too, in case they want to try it. So the tweak is very simple, which is that you create a webinar as if it's a paid webinar, except that in the marketing of it, you say, listen, this is a paid, this is something that I'm going to teach you something. It's for real, but you can attend for free if you actually are going to attend. But if you can't attend, don't want to attend for whatever reason, you can buy the recording later. Okay, so you see, it's
Yeah.
because we know, and you've done many webinars, and we all know, those of us who've done this, that the attendance rate for webinars,
Mm-hmm.
for those who haven't heard the numbers, I'll tell you what the numbers are, having trained so many people on this. 15 to 35% is common.
Yes.
So don't feel bad if, say, 100 people sign up for a webinar, especially free webinars, especially,
Mm-hmm.
and only 30, if 35 people came and 100 people signed up, you should celebrate, because that's on the higher end of free attendance. Now, let me be clear, especially if you say that the recording is available. Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah. If you can't attend, recordings available, then it's 15 to 35%. What I've noticed, if you say there is no recording, it's a free webinar, but there's no recording, then the attendance can get up to 80%, sometimes even higher. Okay, 60 to 80% is not unusual, or 50 to 80%. So it's the recording. Like, is there going to be a recording? Then people go, oh, okay, then I don't have to show up, and you get
Right. Right.
20% oftentimes.
Right. Right. And people never listen to the recording.
Well, because we have so many things to
We're
watch,
so right.
we like
Exactly.
what's new.
Right.
That's normal. When I go to YouTube, I want to see what's new instead
Mm-hmm.
of what's on my watch later. It's like, oh, what's new here?
Right.
So the tweak here that I recommend to my clients that I did, and I'll tell you my story, is that I started doing this in 2016. Is I did a whole year of this,
Mm-hmm.
not realizing I was using some technique. It was just like, well, you know what? I want to teach courses, but I want to make sure people show up, because I actually want the interaction with them, and I want feedback, and I want people to actually benefit, instead of me just preparing this stuff and then nobody shows up because everyone wants the recording.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually, in 2016, I did a whole year where I'm like, okay, here's some low price courses. It was like $25 back then. It was a single session, 25 bucks. And it was like 2 hours. It was too long, but, but
Not
anyway,
necessarily.
not
Depends, right?
necessarily, but, I taught something for 2 hours, 25 bucks. And I said, listen, there's no, only those who attend and fill out the feedback form will get the recording.
Mm.
And back then I said, listen, if you attend, you can attend for free. Okay. If you want the recording, you could buy it later, but you could, so I wanted people to attend. I wanted people to show up.
Right. 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 Right.
So I did that for a year, and it went really well. And then in 2017, I just started selling it. And, I think in 2017, yeah, 2017, I just started selling it in 2018 and 2019.
You
And
started
now
selling the recordings, you mean, or
I
you
just
started?
started selling the courses. Actually, I think in 2017, what I did was I sold it. I sold it without the free to attend anymore. But if they filled out the feedback form, they get the recording also. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I did it that way in 2017, and that was spent. And whenever I do it in such a way where, they will either not get the recording, or they'll only get the recording if they attend, the attendance rate, interestingly, averaged out to 92%.
Huh.
Okay, so let's get clear. What I mean
Yeah.
is, if
Yeah.
100 people sign up, 92 people were there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and it's so strange, because I did many times. It was always 92%. It was some weird thing about that average.
That's interesting.
So to summarize, what I'm recommending to all of you to try especially when you're testing topics, you're testing a new course. This is really primarily for that, okay? Or you are kind of, your audience isn't big enough yet where you really want people to show up. You want to be like talking just to yourself, is to say, it's free to attend, or you can buy it later, or, and here's the additional kind of thing, thing to try, which is those who attend can get the recording for free if they fill out the feedback form
Hmm.
within 4 hours, 24 hours, whatever you want to set that as,
Right.
while it's fresh for them.
Yeah.
So you don't want, if they're not going to fill out in 24 hours, they probably have forgotten what the experience was like. I would really say 4 hours,
Right. To have it, yeah, have it immediate.
just, yeah, and it doesn't
Well,
have
this
to
so
be
well, this is so interesting. So tell me if this is
yeah,
true, because the first things
yes,
that kind of occur to me is that one, you get a raft of hopefully, I mean, assuming the course went well, positive testimonials,
yes,
for the next time that you want to
yes,
do anything.
yes,
And I'm assuming you would build into the feedback form getting permission to use any comments they
yes,
make. Yeah,
yes,
yeah, and and um, I'm assuming like so there's a thing that I learned in business a long time ago from I don't know, do you know Shonda? You must know Shonda Souza, from
yes.
psychotactics.com.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
know personally, but
Yeah,
yes,
I worked with him. I learned from him a long time ago, years and years and years ago. Anyway, he's a really good guy. I like him a lot. And but he talked about something called consumption in business, which is basically the thing is that if people get something from you, but they don't actually use it, then they sit in this kind of psychological place of, oh, I like what they're doing. I probably want more. As soon as I finish this thing, I'll get more. But because they never finish this thing, they don't get more. And so helping people actually consume what it is that you're giving them means that one, they're getting the benefit, which means that they're actually experiencing what you do and they're able to kind of somatically take in what, whoa, this is positive. Or, maybe they don't resonate and they say no and leave, and that's fine too. But, there's a better chance for that. And they don't get stuck in that place of like, oh, I have a lot of Mark stuff or I have a lot of George's stuff. As soon as I listen to that recording,
yeah,
you know,
yes,
it sounds like what this does is it helps partially solve that
yes.
problem in this instance.
Well, it's yes, exactly. So it's like we no longer have to pile up recordings. We're if we're interested in something, we show up. We're there. And one, we actually consume the content and get the information and get the experience,
Hmm.
inspiration, etc. Secondly, it's more fun to be live, especially for those who have practiced doing this. You facilitate a live experience where people get to chat with each other. Sometimes there's even breakout groups or whatever it may be. So it's more fun to be there. It's more fun for the host because they're actually talking with people instead of just imagining they're talking to people.
Hmm.
And then now here's the next sort of step is that it is a first step into working with the person who's presenting. It's a
Hmm.
really easy first step. It's a gentle first step. They're there. It's free, but it's not a free webinar, the sales pitch, because they're actually selling it later. Now we're not pretending to sell it later. We're actually going to sell this later. My recommendation to my clients is you're building up a library of these webinars that are
Hmm.
on your website, and people are saying, "Oh, I like that topic. I'm going to go and buy it." Now, at that point, we might have a consumption problem, so we can solve that in a different way.
Hmm.
But but at least, or if it's a popular topic, you could reprise that topic every 3 to 6 months.
Right.
Do it again. Okay,
Right.
so how do we then talk about the next step? In our work in this kind of webinar that is not a is some people are actually buying this, right? So we're not designing this to be a sales pitch. We're designing this to be a genuine, what can I offer, how can I inspire and educate in a very realistic way in 1, 2, or 3 sessions. So that's
Yes.
what I recommend. Is it's not a 3 month thing, 12-week thing. No, it's a 1, 2, or 3 session kind of experience. Sometimes one is, if you're just starting out, try just one.
I want to emphasize that piece. It's
Yes.
so important because especially if you have a small audience and you don't yet know what topics are going to resonate with your audience yet, and you don't yet maybe have a lot of experience presenting virtually, if any of those things are true, I'm just like 100% on board with you here. It's like, do one topic thing so that you're not, there's
Yes,
nothing worse than setting up a 3 or 4 or 10
that's
session
right.
something on a
Yes,
topic that you think is so hot, and then nobody cares for
that's right.
whatever reason,
Yeah,
but you're committed, you
right,
know.
and we all know as teachers that there is this
Yeah,
every
this drop off,
session,
right?
right? There's a drop off. Most people will show up in the first session, fewer in the second, third, fewer, etc. So that's why you make it easy on yourself and the audience by doing one session. I did only one session topics for a whole year, like I said in 2016.
How often did you do them? How many in that year did you
Oh,
do?
I did one a month.
Uh-huh.
I did
Hmm.
one, and what I actually did, Mark, was I did one topic a month, one session, and I did it twice that month at two different times for the different time zones.
Oh,
So one
interesting.
was morning Pacific, and one was 6 p.m. Pacific, so 9 a.m.
Did
and
you
6 p.m.
did
Pacific.
did you promote those two different times at the same time so people could
Yes.
register at the
So
same
it
time?
was basically the page on my site. I embedded the acuity where there were basically two. Um, I forgot how it was two, was it two appointments, or it was two
They
different
could register for,
sessions. Yeah,
right,
but it was very clear that you just register for one of these two.
right, right.
And of course Acuity, the scheduler I use, but whatever people use is fine, automatically translated the time zone for them. So they'll
Hmm.
obviously see, oh, one of them is at 3 a.m. for me. Well, that's not the one.
Right,
So, okay, I'm going to
right,
go to the one at 10 a.m. or whatever. Okay,
right.
so I did one session for topics for a whole year. The next year, I then started doing two session topics. All of 2017 was two session trainings.
Which one did you like better?
When I was doing the one session, it was 2 hours,
Hmm.
right? Which meant that everyone was there for the whole thing. And like I said, the two sessions starts to see the drop off a little bit. So that's the drawback of it. But of course, two sessions meant that I was able to not do 2 hours. I think I still ended up doing like 60 to 90 minutes per session. Um, I, you know, I like, as a teacher, I like more sessions because I like people to go away and do stuff and then come back and report and
Hmm.
ask questions. But as somebody who's, if you're new, I would recommend everyone tries one session first. But two sessions is fine too. But it wasn't only until the third year that I started playing with three sessions, and now three sessions to even six sessions is normal for me. But three is usually what I do. Long story short, of course, I only did that free to attend for 1 year. So this is a transitionary tactic, not tactic, but a strategy. But again, like I said, for those who are new to teaching online courses and for
Hmm.
those whose audiences are not that big yet. Okay.
Right.
But once you are really skilled at this stuff, you're skilled at selling online courses, it's okay to just sell it. It's not free to attend anymore. You have to pay for it to show up, and that's totally fine. One last thing I'll say is we were talking about how to talk about the next step offering,
That, yeah, I
right?
wanted to hear
Okay.
that. Yeah, I was
So
so, anyway, I'm asking
I
questions, but yeah, go for
totally,
it.
a couple things I recommend is one is that, you know, uh, a lot of times, I don't know if you've had this experience, but when I watch somebody, like let's say I watch a free webinar or something like that, I usually don't think, gosh, free webinar, it was a great webinar. Let me now and go and I can't wait to sign up for their free email list or free 5-step report. I'm like, I want to work with that person one on one.
Mm.
Like that's usually the way I think about it. Not everyone thinks about it in that way, but I do recommend that one of the next steps you give to people is, hey, for those of you who want to work with me one to one, here's how that works. And it's a very organic and natural offer. You know,
So here's a question, and because this is something I talk with my clients about a lot, and I'm
yes,
curious what your recommendations are. Like if you have a 1 hour, 60-minute, 90-minute presentation, how much time are you actually spending
great.
talking about the next steps?
Yes, well, in the past it was like 95%,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, right, right,
right,
right. That's the
right.
whole thing. Spy from me, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
now I really recommend five, not more than 10% for sure.
Hmm.
Especially since, remember, some people are paying for this.
Right.
Okay? So 5% would mean 1/20th of the time, right? So if it's a 60-minute session, 1/20th is
It's 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Exactly. Right. Up to 10% is 6 minutes.
Right.
So really three. So I recommend that at the least you talk for 3 minutes about what it's like for people to work with you one to one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, if you want to take it to the 6 minutes, I would then say the second option you give people would be, what is another offer you have that's similar to this? Similar to this format. Say, if you really like this, I have another webinar on this XYZ topic. If you are not ready to work with me one to one,
Mm-hmm.
then you might want to do another webinar on this. Or if you don't have another webinar, just say, if you're not ready to work with me one to one, I have a group program, or I have a newsletter. That you might want to just get my ongoing things, because if you like this, then you might want to know about my next webinar.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's how you
Right.
find out about it. So that's what I recommend, a really gentle next step. Now, here's the other thing, is the key is the feedback form. Okay.
Yes. I
There needs
really
to
like
be
what you're talking
a
about here. Yeah.
reason for people to fill out a feedback form, because most of the time people, even though they like you, they'll say thanks in the chat and they'll feel like
Right.
they're giving you feedback.
Right. Right.
So there's a couple ways to do it. One is to say, hey, those of you here, if you fill out a feedback form, you also get as a thank you, I'll send you the recording for free instead
Mm-hmm.
of buying it for $25 or whatever the price may be, or $40, whatever. Okay. Or you could have a bonus, like I have a bonus video, or hey, for those of you who fill out a feedback form, get a complimentary 30-minute session with me. If your audience is small enough,
If it's small enough,
it's
if it's
doable.
small enough, don't do that when you had 100
Yeah,
people on the call.
because you can actually see how many people are on the call. So if it's like
Right.
10 people on the call, maybe 7 will fill out the feedback form, and
Right.
you get 7 complimentary sessions. Great,
Right.
right?
Right.
Not if 100 people are on the call. So okay. So in the feedback form, of course, you can ask for testimonials or feedback, or what was the one thing you most are excited about, or what's one way I can improve. You can also say, um, are you interested in further work with me? Like, do you
Yeah.
have any questions about further work with me? Or, so you can ask 1 or 2 questions about the next step, basically.
Right.
So,
Right. Right. And just to emphasize what I'd mentioned earlier, you can also ask, may I use what you've written?
yes, definitely do that. Yes.
And the way that I always phrase it, I don't know how you do it, but it's like, to help other people feel safe enough to try out the webinar, or to feel
Yeah, I
safe
love
enough
that.
to know that
Yeah.
this,
Or if people are wondering
yeah,
whether it's worth coming, what would you
right.
say to them?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Something like that, that frames
Right.
it as a service, because it really is a service to
Yeah.
other people considering work. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. I love what you've structured here, and it's I because I did a free webinar last year, the end of last year, on the pay from the heart
Yeah, I
business
remember that.
model,
People were
and
talking about that. Yeah.
yeah, and I was fortunate. I mean, we have a decent sized audience. We have like
Yes.
1,000 people register for that webinar, and
Wow.
that was really fun. But it's like I had the kind of attendance that you're talking about. I think we had 300 people on,
No,
which is
that's
pretty good,
great.
which is
Yeah.
great. But I'm also just aware of, like, what, I've been needing to redo that webinar anyway, because I wasn't entirely happy with it. Was the first time I taught it to a group like that. I
Ah,
wanted to redo it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm taking notes. I think I'm going to try to do it the way that you said it, because
yeah.
I really like the way this approach feels, and
Yes.
yeah, it feels really good.
That's
So
really. So watch out for Mark's experience with this. I also wanted to mention an actual, someone who is actively doing this, that I feel like she would be really happy for me to mention it. Her name is, some of you may know her. Her name is Liesel Teversham, and her website is savvyselfgrowth.com, SAVVY self, SELF growth.com, savvyselfgrowth.com. And she is actively doing this as of this recording. I think she will be for the rest of the year. So there's
Mhm.
plenty of time for people to check out how she's doing it the way that I'm kind of
Mhm.
recommending. Yeah.
I think it's beautiful, and it is important. Like, if you're considering a strategy, sometimes you can just jump into it, but it's always nice to take a look and see how are other people doing it, so that you can get
Yes.
you know get an idea of the flavor and different ways to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is fantastic. I'm really, I love it. I love the tweaks that you've added to it, and I find that that's really a lot of success in business is like, it's not necessarily coming up with a whole new, brand new thing because there ain't nothing new under the sun, but
Yeah.
it's like looking at, what feels like it might be good, especially or might feel good or be effective, and how can I tweak it? How can I
That's it.
like what are the little tweaks that might both
That's
make it
it.
feel good to my heart and feel like it can really land with people in a strong way? And I
Yes.
I, I love what you've done here. It
Thank you.
feels
Thank you.
really
And
good.
I almost forgot to mention, a very important part of all this is the follow-up. Right?
Mm,
So the reason why we have, the feedback form say, hey, are you interested in, more additional work is that gives you very clear permission. If someone says yes,
mm,
well, then you say, hey, you mentioned in the feedback form that you
right.
want to hear more. But even if you don't ask that question, you forget to ask the question or whatever, you can still email the people who attended to say, hey, for those of you who are interested, it's very
Right.
natural. It's, for those of you, thank you for joining. And for
Hmm.
those who are interested in more, here's how you can work with me, etc. I think it's a very natural thing to do.
I think that's beautiful. Do you recommend or have you experimented with when people register for the webinar to attend live for free that they also end up subscribed to your email list? Have you
Okay.
played with that?
Yeah. So, okay. Those of you watching in Europe know that GDPR is, a big deal.
Yes.
Well, it's
Yes.
obviously it's
I
the
mean,
law.
it would
So,
have to be very transparent and clear. I don't mean
yeah.
doing it in a
Well,
sneaky way.
actually, so Mark, I mean, I am a GDPR rebel. Okay. I've come out on record as this. I think GDPR was really meant for the larger companies like Facebook and Google and Amazon, those kinds of companies. I think personally, I think it kind of stifles the entrepreneurial impulse for smaller businesses like ours and startups and things like that. I actually, when people buy something from me, I automatically add them to my email list, and I have almost never gotten a complaint about
Yeah.
that. People are glad, oh, yeah, I get to get new content from George. I think in this case, it is a gray area if they attend it for free. So I think in the feedback form, it is a wise decision to say, hey, do you want
Mhm.
have that as a question, like,
Well,
hey, I
and
send
even
this.
registering for the webinar in the beginning, because this was
Ah,
actually like because that's
okay,
what we did with our free webinars. I said,
right, right,
when you register, and I was very upfront and clear about it.
yeah,
You'll also
yeah,
be on our email list.
right, right,
To receive other
yeah.
content from us.
So,
So,
I'm to be honest, I'm mixed on that.
hmm
Not from an ethical standpoint. I think it's very transparent and clear, but it's more from the open rate standpoint. I
hmm
do find that with free webinar registrations, the open rate to the email list starts to dwindle,
hmm
because it's not as much of a commitment as somebody who either bought something, which is quite a
right,
commitment,
right,
or they filled out the form at the end and say, "Oh, sure, I want to be part of that," or even they attended. I mean, even if someone attended, I think there's more of a commitment than just having registered, because they
hmm
might not remember that they registered, or I don't know.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
I'm a little mixed on that. I think it's you can go either way, but just watch the open rate and whether or not. What I mean is, like, if the open rates for our email lists are getting smaller and smaller, we're essentially paying our email list provider for all these people that some of them aren't even opening it. So we might need to prune occasionally.
Yeah, well, pruning is always a good thing. And the
Yeah.
truth is that the email provider I use, I don't pay per
Oh,
subscriber, so that's less of
oh,
a
great.
concern. So, but
Oh,
it's
cool.
like,
Which one
but
do you
yeah,
use?
we use Infusionsoft,
Ah,
but
got
it's
it, got
a,
it.
but that's also a very expensive, complex thing because we need the complexity of the tool,
Yeah,
but I don't
yeah.
recommend it for your average solo
Yeah.
person. Um, but it's true, like because if you are paying per email per subscriber, like you do want to pay attention to that very carefully. So,
Yeah,
yeah, no, that's a great point. It's a great point. So
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
So how should people reach you? Is there something coming up that people should know about
Um,
that for them to jump on with you or?
yeah, no, thanks for asking. I just, I just would recommend people check out whatever platform they're comfortable. I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube. I have a monthly newsletter that sends my best content of the previous month. So that's a really gentle way to receive, or I have a weekly one that you get the newest content from me. So it's up to it's up to people how they want to do it.
Great,
They can,
great.
and they can find that all on my website. So.
And I'll have all the links. All the links are here in
Oh
the,
yeah,
below the
cool.
video. So it's like, it's fantastic. So I just want to say again, like just repeating from the beginning that, I mean, and I think it's kind of evident from our conversation that, George has the highest integrity in his content box. It's just like the information that he has to share is simple, it's grounded, it's direct, it works, and it's completely honest and ethical and big-hearted, and I just really have a deep appreciation for that. So
Thank you.
thank you for sharing this with our audience.
Yeah.
I hope that people test it out, and if you do, please tell us. I want to
Yes.
know how it
Yes.
goes.
Yes.
I
Me
want to
too.
hear
Yes.
what's up with that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
all right. So blessings. Find George Cow. His website is
Yeah. It's a tricky.
georgegeorgekao.com. George Cow. No, it's just me tripping over my own lips. But georgecow.com is kind of like the central starting place. You can, like you said, find him on Facebook. I follow him on Facebook a lot. See a lot of his stuff there. And yeah, again, deep, deep gratitude and blessings on your
Thank you
work.
so much, Mark. I really appreciate you, making space for this. And yeah, may Heart of Business continue to, bless
Mm.
people with all these programs that you do, that I always hear about. So thank you.
Thank you. All
Yeah,
right. Peace.
cool.